This is Mandatory Listening, a podcast about the whats, whys, and hows of effective practical leadership shared by successful leaders and by your host, Dan Mann. This episode is sponsored by Interbike.
This is Mandatory Listening with your host, Dan Mann, joined as always by Kent Mann. Hey, Kent.
Hey, good morning.
Where do we find ourselves today?
In Reno, Nevada. A lot of sun, no clouds, and some gambling.
Actually in a large format room, but you may hear the echo if you listen closely.
Yeah.
We're here for Interbike Market Week, and it's a great week for us to see clients and friends, and it's a great fun week for us every year. And that's really what brings us here today, because we ran into one of our good friends, Dave Hanson, last night, and just a fabulous conversation over cocktails. Dave Hanson from Jack's Bicycles.
Good morning.
Yeah, how you doing?
Unbelievable.
So is Interbike a regular thing for you?
No, it has not been a regular thing for the past 5-6 years. Many years ago, absolutely.
Yeah, but now you showed up this year, and fortunately for us, we got a chance to connect.
I did. I had the opportunity to meet with Bosch Bicycles. I'm on their advisory board, and we had to get together last night from 7 to 10 o'clock, and then I had some nice people call me and say, can you come and meet with Dan Mann and have a drink at 5 o'clock? And then I said, absolutely.
That was great. It was a great night. So just because I'm not sure all of our listeners would know you, even though all of us in the bike industry know who you are, give our listeners an introduction to your business, your history in this business, and just a little bit about it.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, my name is Dave Hanson. My wife, Liz, and I, we have 10 retail bicycle stores in Southern California. Liz and I started out in a partnership on April Fool's Day in 1990 and eventually worked out of the partnership and into a single store in 1993. And since then, we've been growing our business to where now we're in four different counties in Southern California. And we get to make people happy with bicycles and bicycle goodies.
How many stores do you have?
We have 10 stores.
Yeah, you've been in this business a while.
Since the summer of 1976. Yeah, I was supposed to sweep up Starl's cigarette butts and build Schwinn varsities.
86, 96.
Yeah.
So over 30 years?
Yeah, 32 years.
Wow. Yeah, well, congratulations. Yeah. Just that.
42 years, excuse me.
Yeah, let's add
42.
Let's add 10 more there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, unbelievable. So what really got me excited about, thanks for the introduction, and what got me excited last night was over drinks, you talking about just some general day-to-day operational challenges in your business that revolved around this new strategy you have for measuring customer satisfaction. So I know you use the Net Promoter Score methodology, which is not really common in bike retail. So give us a little background on what you're doing and why.
Well, I find that Net Promoter Score not common in bicycle retail, but I don't see it that common at any different levels of retail. I see players like Apple and Costco and Best Buy. I was picking up a TV one time at a Best Buy warehouse, and I looked up and I saw a board and it had NPS on it, and I saw the score, and I actually asked the gal who was checking me out, what's that board all about? She's like, I don't know. I see people run up and change the numbers, but she didn't know. Net Promoter Score, the measurable likelihood that somebody will recommend your business to somebody else.
And you're saying there's a number for that? I
I
love hearing that.
Yeah, I have a great friend, Lance, who's a jeweler. He became a jeweler 1 year out of high school. And Lance, his business is absolutely wonderful on word of mouth. And there's no way that he would need to know the number right now because it's Lance. It's Lance and his business. With us having 10 retail stores for the last 4 years, we actually measured the Net Promoter Score out of the service department, A, and out of the sales of bikes, B, at each location. So every month we would get 20 Net Promoter Scores, 2 per location, that we would then combine so each store had its own Net Promoter Score. We would work on wanting to achieve 85%. We recently just found out that a Net Promoter Score, an average Net Promoter Score ranges from 19 to 35 points. And you can get as low as minus 100 on the Net Promoter Score.
I think we've been to a couple of those stores.
I've been to a couple of those stores, and then all the way up to 100.
Yeah.
And Right now, Jack's is over 90% right now on the 10 stores combined.
That's fantastic. But let me just dig into the specifics of that. What does 90% tell you? What does 60% tell you? What does it mean?
What does negative 100 tell you?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Negative 100 tells you that you probably should go get a job somewhere else, because if you're not out of business
people
today, it's probably tomorrow. The score helps you understand the flow of how you're treating your clients, how your clients perceive you. The key component to this is connecting with your clients and getting their data into your database. And one of the key pieces of data is the email, because that's how, after they purchase, the email will be prompted and they'll get a survey. And it says, on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the likelihood you'd recommend us to somebody else? And 9s and 10s are promoters. When someone gives you a 9 or a 10, they will actively recommend your business to somebody else.
You mentioned something last night, too, about the way customers prefer to hear from a trusted company. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah,
and you talked about the headline that you still have. I thought that was interesting. You should get into that.
That has to do with, that was back in 2014. It was in the USA Today. USA Today, on the bottom left of the front page, always has this little tiny blurb of, some measurements or some interesting facts. And the morning that we were going to work on email capture rate, it said the information that adults will share to a trusted vendor to receive a bona fide offer.
Yeah, say that again.
Sure.
Okay. Everyone listen in.
So, information that adults will share to trusted vendors to receive a bona fide offer. And the number one piece of information that they'll share, and it was at 82% that people would share their email. So when you make that love connection at retail, I'll call it, where the client truly does enjoy you and trust you, they will give you their email, and then that's your way of keeping in touch with them and in contact with them.
Yep.
And then when we have that email and that purchase, now they're going to leave, and within a 24-hour period, they're going to get a prompt to say, hey, tell us about your experience. And on a scale of 0 to 10, how'd we do? And 6 or less is called a detractor. They'll actually consider not coming back to you or talking negatively to somebody about you. 7 and 8s are passive. You're like, yeah, it was fine. But they're not going to talk good or bad about you. They're just moving on down the road. And 9s or 10s will help promote your business.
Yep.
Detractors, in the most recent way that we are working on our business, we're making contact with a detractor within a 24-hour period to help understand how we could have done better. I used the example last night where we had a gentleman that came in to get his front derailleur adjusted, and he gave us a 2 out of 10. And right away, I could see who wrote the repair and who did the repair. And I was away because I'm coming here to Interbike. My service leader is away. He's on vacation right now. The store's out of control busy. We're up 21% right at the moment. And I think they took it a little bit too simple that he only needed this front derailleur adjustment. I don't think we inspected it right. We have a multi-point inspection. We should have been checking the chain for chain stretch. My gut tells me we didn't do any of that. And then we gave the job to a staff member that really does a better job with the recreation type of bikes and not the upper end road bike. So when I now can drill down to see this 2 out of 10, I can see where the wheels fell off of the truck in less than 24 hours after him leaving the store. And we're already working on making contact with him to get him back to the store to make it right. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. It's all about how you take care of those mistakes, is how your longevity is going to be measured, or enhanced. When you make people happy, when you screw up and still can rebound and make them happy, they're going to give you another shot.
Yeah. Coming from a guy who's 42 years into the industry, longevity is one of your strengths, I think.
I never feel it is. Heard the term many times, playing from 2 touchdowns behind. We consistently, every interaction with every client is important.
Nice.
There's no one guy that leaves that's mad, and you can go, he doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everybody matters.
Yep.
As I hear you talk about this, and I'm thinking about the state of retail today, every customer has an option. I can go do this with a competitor of yours. I can maybe do some of my choices online. There are lots of choices. So for a retailer to circle back and go, I'm concerned that we didn't do well for you, and I'm concerned that you evaluated us a 2 out of 10.
And we're going to make this right.
And I want to take some interaction. Number one, I think that's going to get some attention. I mean, how often is it, or how likely is it? Maybe it's just it's a guess on your part, or maybe How likely is it that you could turn that 2 into a 9? How can we make that detractor into a
super likely. It's matter of fact, the company that we use, and it's very new right now, so I'm going to keep that to our own selves right at the moment. But this company even is coaching us on how to then resubmit to the same person after they've left to get the new net promoter response. Did the 2 out of 10 turn into a 7 out of 10, which at least makes him passive instead of a detractor? Or is he just thrilled to the point of no return that we're a 9 or a 10 out of 10? I doubt either one of you could tell me in the last even 6 months that a retailer proactively called you.
Yeah. Zero.
Zero
would be the
Zero.
answer.
Zero would be the answer. No retailer has called me after I've had how would the retailer even know if I had a bad experience at their business? Because I didn't tell them. Yeah. They're not asking.
They're not paying attention.
We're asking. And we have this tool that gives us the ability to reach out. See, the thing about the passives, which are 6 out of 10 or less, they'll dwindle away. And most businesses lose 20 to 30% of their clientele every year because it's just it just wasn't that big a deal, and they're just down the road.
Yep.
And
so you've got detractors, you've got passives, and you've got promoters.
Promoters,
and
right.
So when I hear that, I think about the passion I hear in you and observed in you last night about acquiring more and more promoters. And that sort of endorsement, I mean, if you go to if you're doing any online shopping, let's just say, for example, Amazon, and you're looking at a product, how do you decide whether or not you like them? You scroll down to the bottom where there are the customer comments, reviews.
Yeah.
I think that's becoming crucial for any brand or any retailer to have endorsements. What'd you think of these guys? I loved them. And to have dozens and dozens and dozens of people that at a 9 or a 10 are going, this is where you need to go. It's got to be invaluable to a business.
The number one referral is somebody you know, family, friend, coworker. Hey, I need a plumber. Oh, Joe the plumber is the guy, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm calling Joe the plumber. Yep. The second, and this really blew me away when I learned this, the second review or person that you're using to help make your purchase is somebody you don't know that wrote online.
Wow.
That's the second layer. So the first one is who you know, who you love, who's your friends, who's your this. You take their word. Hey, this guy treated me great. Okay, I'm going with them. If you don't have that, if you talk to everyone and no one has a plumber, now you're going to go read reviews online of people you don't even know, and you're going to choose from that. Then the next one is you go on the internet and you just start looking up whoever, and you're just kind of like, well, I guess we're choosing this guy or making phone calls or what.
So you said something earlier that struck me from the USA article, how customers prefer to hear from a trusted vendor.
Trusted.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I think about, when I worked retail and, there's always that training moment where you got to ask for email. We got to get email in the system. And all the new employees are like, oh, I hate asking for email. I don't want to bother anyone. I think that we're so hesitant because you're not getting that trust from the customer. So maybe we can dig into that and I don't know what you think, but getting that trust as a measurable trait that you can train to. How do you consistently get your customers to trust you? And that way asking for an email is simply, that's just the last step. That just is every time a customer.
So they pull into the parking lot. When was the last time you pulled into a retail store and someone greeted you in the parking lot?
Not often.
How about open the door? Well, a lot of retail stores have automatic opening doors. Okay, well, our Long Beach store doesn't right now, and it's just a really funny, unique building / where people travel. But so we've now maybe met you in the parking lot, we've opened a door, or when you've walked in, we've at least said hi, and now we're waiting on you, and we're smiling, and we're hustling, and we're moving, and we've got things for you, and you're coming up to the counter after whatever period of time you were there, a minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, and we're now, have you shopped with us before? I have. Okay, let me get your info up here. What's your last name? Okay, and we just say, what's your email? And we put it in. Our email capture rate as a company is approaching 85%, which you go back to the USA Today article, which is 82% is what, so we're in the ballpark of doing the right thing. And our clients do matter to us. So I don't sell the emails.
Oh, and I don't want you to run past it. Your definition last night of client versus a customer.
Yes. Well, yeah, customer buys a good or a service. I was at Ralph's, the market, where you buy bread and milk. And back by the milk section, they had a guy hanging out at the milk section helping us figure out what milks. Do you have a milk guy at your milk section that helps you with the non-fat milk and the low-fat milk and the homogenized milk and the
milk guy.
2% and chocolate milk? You want chocolate milk? And then there's the almond milk and there's the this milk and the that milk. No, you don't. That guy wasn't there at Ralph's, but how much more milk would people be buying if we did have the milk guy? Right?
Let me walk you through.
So customers go to the market, go to Ralph's, they do their own thing, they buy. A client is under the trusted care of a professional advisor. Your accountant has a clientele. Yep. Your lawyer has, clientele. Doctors have patients. Not the patients like where they're patient, but like they have people that they're waiting on. For us in the bicycle business, you said earlier, Dan, well, I could go to this retail store over here. I could go online. You do it, just fix it yourself with bubble gum and tape. Now we have people that are relying on us to help them enjoy. And the bicycle business is complicated.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of pieces. We got bikes out there that are 50 years old. We could have a bike rolling in that we sold 4 days ago, and then the next client coming in, it could be a bike from the 60s. And they both want us to take care of them. And we have to be a chameleon, at a snap of a finger, and be able to wait on them. So they're relying on us as advisors to help them understand what they potentially need.
Yeah.
Most of the time they don't even know what they need when they come in. And neither do we at the start, but within a few minutes, through care, we'll develop a client.
Nice.
So 85% of the people that as customers or clients walk to your register to spend money with you will be willing to give you their email address, which is already the first round of a good vote of confidence. I
almost think 90% would be willing, and I think some of my staff members, like you said earlier, Ken, are still timid to ask.
Of course.
So I saw a gentleman last night, Bob Fidel, that I just absolutely enjoy. I think he's the best retailer in America, maybe the world. And they're over 90% right now. And it was when I went to meet him back in 2014 because I heard he was doing a good job with email capture rate. And it was leaving the hotel in Vienna, Virginia, where the USA Today was on the floor. And I thought that the stars were just aligning because here I was to learn about email capture rate. And there it is on the front page of the USA Today. And I know I have that paper still in my office. It really meant a lot. So I actually saw Bob last night, and they're over 90%.
Wow.
And then you've got this. Then you've got this question to the email that says, "Thanks for coming by our store. We'd love to get your vote. How do we do? 1 to 10?
On a scale of 0 to 10. I don't know exactly what it says. But it's, how did we do? And they pick a number, and then if they want to write a comment, they can. Boom, it's done.
Now here's where I'm headed with that. So this, first of all, for anyone listening that's in this business, you've got to consider a Net Promoter Score function in your business. This is beautiful, but here's really where the rubber meets the road. And I think while we're talking today, if you go to all this trouble to ask someone how they did, and they did not have a good experience, and they're writing you're giving you a 2, and you're not, and you didn't get a great review. How do you execute on that experience? How do you ensure that that experience is going to be a promoter-worthy experience?
Yeah.
And what does it take really? Because what I see in you is an urgency, and I see in you the desire to hear how we did, which is first, step one.
Yeah.
But how do you get there to?
Well, I hate having a detractor. You see in the morning, and it's got a little red face, and he's kind of scrumbled nose, and I love seeing no detractors in the morning. And we had a day last week that they had 10 reviews in one day, and they were all 10 out of 10s.
Wow. That's got to feel good.
Oh my gosh, that is just absolutely wonderful. And then yesterday morning when I'm flying here, we had 2 red faces. Was it Monday? Maybe it was yesterday Monday?
Yesterday was Tuesday.
No, yesterday was Tuesday.
Yesterday was Tuesday.
I've lost track.
I've lost track too, whichever it was. But anyhow, 2 red faces, and I'm like, gosh darn it. So now you talk about sense of urgency. Well, frankly, you don't need to do anything. You could have a score and say 83 is good enough. You don't have to do anything. I don't have the end in mind with our business. Every relationship is absolutely a pinnacle of importance. And we have the ability to make the 10s happen. And if we goofed up and we don't get up in the morning saying, all right, we had 10 for 10s yesterday, we can upset 2 people today. We never do that, And so our business is not about upsetting people. It's about making people happy.
And I think that's a good point, and not just a good point, that's a great philosophy, that you're not going through your weeks hoping that your word of mouth is good. I think there's a lot of people, not just in the bike industry, but in every specialty industry, that says, oh yeah, my word of mouth is fantastic. People love me. My regulars love me. But they're not even tracking. They're not even taking steps to improve it. They get a bad review on Yelp, for example, and then they're like, oh yeah, we'll have a team meeting about it. You really got to get emails, or they didn't give me 3 options, or whatever it is. And then they're not taking any steps toward that, rebuilding that relationship with that customer. Because you said earlier, every customer matters, even the ones that you burned. Those matter. And so the fact that you're tracking it, you're looking at it every single morning, you see those red faces, and you're like, all right, we're taking steps.
We're calling them within a 12-hour period of, we hear about it in the morning at 7 or 8 in the morning, and that next day's business up till 7 o'clock, depending on how busy it is in the store or how much homework we need to do to figure out what we need to do, we're working it. What's neat about this, if you were to see this client 2 months later, and he happened to come in, he goes, the last time I was here, blah, blah, blah happened, and blah, blah, blah happened. And then you're kind of like, what? Who worked on that?
Who was there that day?
What? Who was there that day? Who blah, blah, blah. This is happening yesterday or the day before, because sometimes just because they get the email that on the 16th doesn't mean they take the response on the 16th. It's normally within 2 or 3 days. But because this actually ties into our point of sale system, we actually get to see on the email who waited on them, who did the work, how much they spent, and we can go back into our database and look, and the ticket could have notes, it could be a repair and this and that. We had a gentleman that we should have called him prior to the bike leaving, and we should have recommended a new shifter. When he got there, they did the work and they did the shifter, and it was operating in what I'll say is good enough. Well, he tries it in the parking lot, and guess what? Not good enough, right? So then they come in, they readjust a little bit again, and boom, 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 and then he leaves, and it's good enough. But then when he gets home, for whatever reason, not good enough again, and it's like, ugh. So then we got a 1 out of 10, I think, with him. I called him and left a message 9 times. 9 times. And then I was talking with Brian Cox, our operations vice president. I says, I've left a message 9 times. He's not calling me back. Brian says, send him an email. He says, if he's not going to answer his phone, how's he going to answer it? Within 30 minutes, he emailed me back, And this is day 3 now that I'm working this deal. And he's like, yeah, it's working. In his words exactly, good enough. And I'm like, well, you know what? If it's not good enough anymore, come in. I'm going to buy you a new shifter. I'm going to install it. And if you like, I'll drive to your house. I'll pick your bike up. I'll bring it back and I'll take it back to you so you don't need to deal with it.
Oh my gosh. Talk about above and beyond.
Yeah. What I love about this, Dave, is really, and what I think the lesson is that the level of intensity it takes and the level of focus it takes, and finally the level of intentionality it takes to do this.
Yeah, be intentional.
If you go, if you're in the specialty retail space, nothing is by accident. Everything is that diligence, that hard work, that preemptive move. And that promoter score, just as an example, is that preemptive move that is giving you an edge, I think.
This is not an isolated incident with the gentleman with the shifter. We have multiple stories along the line where we have 10 locations. We'll have, golly jeepers, I think it's 70 or 80,000 transactions this year. The chance of dropping the fork, while the plate's going to the table it's there,
Yeah.
Just don't pick the fork up off the floor and hand it to the client, make sure you go back to the kitchen and get them a new fork.
Yeah, that's a good example.
A lot of moving parts. So what I just really appreciate and admire that 40 some years later, you still got this eye on, in fact, you still get your eye on the effort in the business, but you now have a proficiency and the ability to have seen it all and done it all to the point where I can tell you what happened. I know what it was, and I know how to fix that.
Within 20 minutes, I would say, of a detractor, we have a understanding of what happened, high understanding of what happened, and a high opportunity plan of how to fix it.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, and it's exactly what I thought our listeners would enjoy, talking about the Net Promoter Score. As we wind down, I'm just interested in what's got you excited about the future in your business. I mean, what gets you up every morning? What gets you, motivated to keep doing this? What keeps that fire and that drive?
You said last night, I'm not tired yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not tired
great.
yet.
Not tired yet.
Yeah.
You're in the top 5 in the country in this business and climbing. And so, good for you. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But what is it that fires you up, gets you to this level of enthusiasm?
So I remember being young, mowing. I remember Ernie Patterson walking down the street, and I thought I was in trouble because normally we broke Ernie Patterson's sprinkler with our skateboard or our skates. And here comes Ernie down the street, and he comes to the front yard, and I go, "Hello, Mr. Patterson." He says, "Can your dad come out here?" And I'm like, "Oh, no." I'm saying to myself, so I bring my dad out, and now my dad's thinking, all right, what did my kid do this time? And then Ernie says to my dad, "I'd like your son to mow my yard." My dad looks over at me, and I'm like, this is the first I'm hearing about this. And yeah, I'd love to do it. All right, well, I pay you $5 a week to mow my yard, and then once a month you have to trim the ivy, and you get an extra $2. But you need to use your dad's mower. My mower doesn't work. Or you could use the old push one if you want to. So I looked at my dad, and my dad says, "Well, sounds like you're mowing 2 yards. I'm like, 2 yards? It's just Ernie's yard. He says, "No, you're mowing my yard." To be able to use the mower to go up and use Ernie's yard. Well, I didn't know that was cost of goods at that point in time. I do today. And then while I was mowing Ernie's yard, Mrs. Bordelius came about a month later and said, "Can you mow my yard?" And then Mrs. Miner, and then I forget the other lady's name. And then eventually Merle Oatman asked me to mow his yard, and he had diconder grass, and he had the nicest yard on the street. And so then eventually I was mowing his yard too, and had 2 paper routes. And I'm like 12, 13 years old. So, there's kind of 7 businesses already, 12, 13 years old, 2 paper routes, and mowing 5 yards getting paid, actually 6 with my dad's. So it's always just been natural for me to be in business. It's what I do. And I do need to work. We have a lot of obligations, and I said earlier, don't have the end in mind. And I think what drives us is I've always been competitive. Played football for 9 years. I always wanted to hit people as hard as I could.
Still today.
Yeah.
Still to today, but I have to be nice, and I have to hit them with softness and with care, rather than with the front of my helmet.
Yeah.
And so I'm competitive, and we have these businesses, and we're going to do well with them. And
Wow.
boy, yeah, I think our payroll this year will be $2.4 million of payroll. We have a lot of families that rely on us now too.
Yeah.
We make a lot of people happy.
Well, and you've been adding paper routes and lawns to mow for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Every little store is another lawn to mow.
Yeah, it is another lawn to mow.
It's just a little bigger.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking with Dave Hanson from Jack's Bicycle Center, and I'll close by reading the embroidery on your T-shirt. You've said it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Right underneath the logo. We make people happy.
Yep.
That's good work, man. That's very good work.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks for joining us today, Dave.
That's it for this episode. You can find Mandatory Listening on iTunes or wherever you get and subscribe to your podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think, so make sure and leave us comments on iTunes or on our website at mangroup.net, where you'll find all of our episodes. That's MANNgroup.net. Thanks for listening.